Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Sabrai Shiva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Yeah, so welcome everybody to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we're going to be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 41. This chapter is called The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev. Okay, cool. So then we'll recite it. Muni Gananripa Varya Sankulenta. Oh. Huh? Sadasi Yudhishthira Raja Surya Esham. How's it go? How's it go? Muni. Okay, we'll stick with that. There we go. Muni Ganani. No, that's what I was doing. Technical difficulties. All right, we'll just continue like that. Arhanam upapeda ikshaniyo. Mama drishi gochara esha avir atma. All right, someone else want to try? If you can find a better melody, feel free. Do it, Nita.
Muni Gananipa Varya Sankulenta Sada Shiyudhishthira Raja Surya Esham Arhanam Upadeda Ikshaniyo Mama Drishigo Chara Esha Viratma.
All right, let's just have one of the ladies. Ganami Pavaya Sankulenita Sada Siyudhishthira Raja Surya Esham Arhanam Upapeda Ikshaniyo Mama Dishi Gochara Esha Viratma. All right. So, oh, does somebody want to chat out there on Zoom?
Hare Krishna.
Go for it, Prabhu.
Muni Ganane Pavarya Sankulenta Sadasiyudhishthira Raja Surya Esham
Sadasiyudhishthira Raja Surya Esham
Apahana Upapeda Ikshaniyo Mama Dristi Gochara Esa Abiratma.
Mama Dristi
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, let's go just straight into the word for word. So we can do this all together. Munigana, the great learned sages. Nripavarya, the great ruling kings. Sankule, in the great assembly of. Antasadasi, conference. Yudhishthira, of Emperor Yudhishthira. Rajasuye, a royal performance of sacrifice. Esham, Arhanam, respectful worship. Upapeda, received. Ikshaniya, the object of attraction. Mama, mine. Drishi, sight. Gochara, within the view of. Esha Avi, personally present. Atma, the soul. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the Rajasuya Yagya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhisthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned orders. And in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord. Report. After gaining victory in the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the emperor of the world, performed the Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. The emperor in those days, upon his ascendance to the throne, would send a challenge horse all over the world to declare his supremacy, and any ruling prince or king was at liberty to accept the challenge and express his tacit willingness either to obey or to disobey the supremacy of the particular emperor. One who accepted the challenge had to fight with the emperor and establish his own supremacy by victory. The defeated challenger would have to sacrifice his life, making a place for another king or ruler. So Maharaj Yudhisthira also dispatched such challenging horses all over the world, and every ruling prince and king all over the world accepted Maharaj Yudhisthira's leadership as the emperor of the world. After this, all rulers of the world under the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira were invited to participate in the great sacrificial ceremony of Rajasuya. Such performances required hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was not an easy job for a petty king. Such a sacrificial ceremony being too expensive and also difficult to perform under present circumstances is now impossible in the age of Kali, nor can anyone secure the required expert priesthood to take charge of the ceremony. So, after being invited, all the kings and great learned sages of the world assembled in the capital of Maharaj Yudhisthira. The learned society, including the great philosophers, religionists, physicians, scientists, and all great sages, was invited. That is to say, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas were the topmost leading men in the society, and they were all invited to participate in the assembly. The Vaishyas and Sudras were unimportant elements in society, and they are not mentioned herein. Due to change of social activities in the modern age, the importance of men has also changed in terms of occupational positions. So in that great assembly, Lord Krishna was the cynosure of neighboring eyes. Everyone wanted to see Lord Krishna, and everyone wanted to pay his humble respects to the Lord. Bhishma Dev remembered all this and was glad that his worshipful Lord, the personality of Godhead, was present before him in his actual formal presence. So to meditate on the Supreme Lord is to meditate on the activities, form, pastimes, name, and fame of the Lord. That is easier than what is imagined as meditation on the impersonal feature of the Supreme. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is clearly stated that to meditate upon the impersonal feature of the Supreme is very difficult. It is practically no meditation, or simply a waste of time, because very seldom is the desired result obtained. The devotees, however, meditate upon the Lord's factual form and pastimes, and therefore the Lord is easily approachable by the devotees. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 12.9. The Lord is non-different from his transcendental activities. It is indicated also in the shloka that Lord Sri Krishna, while actually present before human society, especially in connection with the battle of Kurukshetra, was accepted as the greatest personality of the time, although he might not have been recognized as the supreme personality of Godhead. The propaganda that a very great man is worshipped as God after his death is misleading, because a man after his death cannot be made into God, nor can the personality of Godhead be a human being, even when he is personally present. Both ideas are misconceptions. The idea of anthropomorphism cannot be applicable in the case of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right. So this pastime of Bhishmadev passing away is very instructive because Bhishmadev is one of the 12 Mahajanas. And so and it's said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that it's very difficult to understand real religious principles. That even the demigods and great sages sometimes become confused about how to actually practice religion. And because it's different in different ages. And what works in one situation may not work in another situation. And therefore we need to follow the path that's chalked out by the Mahajanas. So Bhishmadev is one of the 12 Mahajanas that are specifically named in the Bhagavatam. Does anybody know the verse? Nisai? Just say Prahlada Janaka Bhishma. Prahlada Janaka Bhishma.
Kumara Kapila Manu Narada Shambhu Bhishma Bali Payar Sakhi Vayam.
Good. Yeah. So
Yamaraj.
Yamaraj says it. So Yamaraj is one of them. Yeah, so the 12 Mahajanas there are Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishmadev, the 4 Kumaras, Lord Kapila Dev, Swayambhuva Manu, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. Yeah. Okay, so Bhishmadev is in there. And so Bhishmadev, he's acting as a Mahajana here by his personal example, because there's 2 ways of preaching. There's prachar and there's achar. So prachar means speaking, your words, giving instructions. And then achar means your behavior, the example that you set for your personal behavior. So Bhishmadev is setting the example of how to leave the body. And the example that he's setting is that we need to fix our minds on Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that Antakale chamameva smaran mukva kalevaram yad prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. That whoever at the end of his life puts his body remembering me alone at once, of this there is no doubt. Good. So at once attains my nature. In other words, it once goes to the spiritual nature, goes to the transcendental abode of the Lord. So that's the goal. We're trying, Prabhupada was always telling us that the goal is that we need to get out of this material world. This is not our place. Our home is in the spiritual world with Krishna. And so we should really focus our minds on going back to God, making this our last life in the material world. We've been here for so many lifetimes. And whether we're in the highest planet of Brahmaloka down to the lowest hellish planets, they're all places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. But one who goes back to Krishna's abode never takes birth again. So Bhishmadev is showing us how to do that by fixing his mind on Lord Krishna. And in the previous verses, he's talking about different ways in which he's remembering the Lord. Because Bhishmadev lived, he was a contemporary of Lord Krishna. So he met Krishna personally. They had personal dealings with each other. And so now that he's lying there at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he's fought like a hero in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and his body is pierced with so many arrows that like he fell off his chariot onto the ground, and the arrows are going in one side, out the other, such that his body is not lying on the ground. He's just being held up on those arrows which are piercing him. And he's just lying there waiting for the perfect moment to leave his body, because he had received a boon that he didn't have to leave his body until he wanted to. So he's waiting not just for the time to be right, but for his consciousness to be perfectly fixed on Krishna. And so he's saying these prayers. Yes, so I'm just going to go back a couple verses. He says, he says, let's see, where to start. So from text 38, he says, may he, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to his wounds. So this is the meditation that Bhishmadev is having, because his mood with Krishna is virya rasa. That's his like secondary rasa. So he's in the mood of dasya rasa as a servant of Krishna, but with a secondary rasa of virya. So that's a particular flavor that he serves Krishna by fighting with him. So the image of Krishna that he wants to remember is that image of Krishna on the battlefield, charging him with blood on his face and perspiration on his brow and dust, his hair covered with dust. That's like his Krishna. You know, so if you think like everybody has a particular like form of Krishna that's particularly attractive, or an age of Krishna, or, you know, a pastime of Krishna that you really connect with, or a mood of Krishna that you think I don't like Krishna when he's doing this. I like him when he's like this. So we're all individuals and we all have a personal, individual, unique relationship with Krishna. So naturally we'll be attracted to a particular form, a particular mood, a particular, you know, scene where Krishna is having his pastimes, and we want to be in that scene with Krishna at that time, doing that thing in that mood with those devotees. So Bhishmadev he's praying according to his own mood, but then he's also he continues. So he says, at the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. So this is also like he's giving protection to Arjuna, and you know, this is a very clear image, right? With his with the whip in his right hand, because he's driving the chariot, so he has to whip the horses, and then he's holding the bridle here to pull them, to steer them. So he's like, he's remembering that image. But then he also appreciates Krishna's pastimes with other devotees. So in the next verse he says, let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Vrajadam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the rasa dance. So he's remembering different pastimes, particularly in his own mood, but also he's appreciating how Krishna is so wonderful. You know, like he's described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as Akila Rasamrita Murti, that he's the form of all rasas. And then that's like the Paribhasi Sutra, that's like the introduction to sets the tone for the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Nectar of Devotion, that Krishna is the reservoir, the form, the very embodiment of all transcendental rasas. And then throughout the book, then Rupa Goswami explains all the different rasas and how he interacts with this devotee and this rasa and this devotee. Rasa means the mood, like a loving mood, a relationship which gives you some like taste that you really relishable mood in a relationship. So he interacts with this person in this mood, that person. So that's all laid out very scientifically in the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami, which Srila Prabhupada gave us as the Nectar of Devotion. So then, so it's nice to appreciate Krishna in all the different moods and just see how like Krishna is such a wonderful person that he is able to reciprocate with everybody in exactly the mood that they want. And you know, there's a verse there that that Krishna, whatever mood that we want to worship Krishna in, or love Krishna in, or just relate to Krishna in, he will appear before us. He will be present in our lives in exactly that mood that we desire him to be in. And the evidence of this is that when he married so many queens, he married 16,108 queens. And with each queen, he acted with her in exactly the mood that she wanted. Because every woman has an idea in her mind of who is my dream husband, right? Like, what is the my Mr. Right, or, my ideal, like, how is he going to be? How is he going to respond to me? How is he going to deal? Is he going to give me flowers? Is he going to, or are we going to go mountain climbing together? Or, are we, like a way that she wants to relate with her ideal partner. So Krishna's queens are like that too. They want to relate with Krishna in a certain way. So with one queen, he was, very submissive, and he was bringing her gifts and, saying sweet words. Another queen, he was very active. He was like, hop on my chariot, let's go into battle, And another one, he was, she wanted him to be more like, the kind of like dominant person, and she wanted to be submissive. And another one, she wanted to be in charge, and he became a henpecked husband just to satisfy her. And so so he dealt with it. He knew exactly their mentalities and their desires for a loving relationship, and he reciprocated perfectly with everyone. So in the same way, Bhishma Dev, he had this mood of wanting to fight with Krishna. But Krishna took a vow in the Battle of Kurukshetra that he didn't want to fight. Or he took a vow that he would not fight. And so he was that's why he was the chariot driver. But then Bhishma Dev, he took his own vow. And one day he said, today, I'm either going to force Krishna to fight, to break his vow and fight with me, or I'm going to kill Arjuna. So, and Bhishma Dev reads this verse that he's talking about how, Krishna was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means, even to this extent that he broke his vow. And to break one's vow and that culture, it was like a very heavy thing. It was a very serious and rare thing. So when Krishna jumped, Bhishma Dev was shooting arrows at Arjuna so intensely that Arjuna was not going to survive. He wasn't able to defeat him. He wasn't able to block him. He was just a dead man, and when Krishna saw that, he said, no, Arjuna is not going to die today. I'm going to save him. So he jumped off the chariot, and he didn't have any weapon. So he just picked up a broken chariot wheel that was lying there on the ground, and he picked it up and he started charging toward Bhishma Dev with so much intensity that his upper cloth, like his chadar, fell off, and he was just like gonna smash Bhishma Dev with that chariot. And Bhishma Dev was in ecstasy. He was like, this is it. This is the moment. This is like the epitome of my existence. Let this vision, and even at the time of death, he's saying, let this vision of Krishna with, the whip in his hand, let him with the chariot wheel in his arm, rushing to kill me. Let this be the vision in my mind, in my heart, when I leave my body. So, with sweat and with blood and dust raised from the horse's hoof prints. So, and Krishna is so wonderful that he actually arrived on the scene. So Bhishma Dev's lying there, totally just pinned down to the ground with arrows, and he's surrounded by all the Pandavas and all of his well-wishers. And then Krishna comes and he appears before him. He comes right before him, and he's looking at him very lovingly and very compassionately. And then just at the moment when Bhishma Dev is going to leave his body, he looks at Krishna and he sees that mood. He sees that vision, that battlefield scene. He doesn't see Krishna, very sweet and demure. Like, he sees Krishna like ferociously, and then he leaves his body and he goes to Vaikuntha, the place where he fights with Krishna. And they enjoy their loving exchange that way. So this meditation of Krishna in the time of death is very important. And it's explained that it's not something that we can just make it happen at the time of death. We can't just live our lives like willy-nilly, like doing anything whimsically and think, I'll just remember Krishna at the time of death, and Antakali Chamami Rasmami. Whatever I remember, if I remember him, I'll go to him. So all I need to really worry about is that one moment, that final moment. And so, just like I can control my mind now, I can make myself think about a pink elephant, or I can make myself think about a goldfish, or, whatever I want, I can just make myself think about it at any moment. So at the time of death, I'll just make myself think about Krishna, go to Krishna, and Enjoy myself now, enjoy myself later, it's all good. But that's not exactly how it works. Srila Prabhupada explains that what we think about at the time of death is basically the culmination of everything that we've been thinking about during our lives. So we need to start from the very beginning, right? Like Prahlad Maharaj teaches that from the very beginning of childhood. It's like Komara Acharat Pragya. He says from the Komara, Komara is a small child, like 5 years old. From the very beginning of childhood, we should practice being Krishna conscious, practice focusing our minds on Krishna, because it's not so easy, especially we've been lifetimes in the material world. And actually what we're most likely to remember is whatever is most dear to us, whatever we're most attached to. So, you know, a lot of people at the time of death, they'll call out for their mothers, or they'll call out for their wife or husband, or they'll call out for their child. Like we see in the case of Ajamil, he called out for his youngest son, his pet son. Some people might call out for their dog or whatever nowadays. Whoever is most dear to you. So our objective in Krishna consciousness, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is cultivating consciousness of Krishna all the time. And then it's talked about a lot in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and throughout those purports, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly emphasizes that the best way to remember Krishna, to train the mind, we have to retrain our minds, to train our minds to think of Krishna. And he said the best way to do this is by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, and that purifies our mind of all the other attachments, all the superfluous, extraneous, artificial, useless things that we're attached to. And it creates a presence of Krishna in our minds. And then the more we chant Hare Krishna, the more we become conscious of Krishna, and the more we start to actually feel Krishna's presence in our own lives. And we start to see things from a perspective that things aren't happening randomly. They're happening because of Krishna. This is everything that happens at every moment is actually Krishna's, is an interaction with Krishna. It's a personal interaction with Krishna. So, you know, if we have a conversation and somebody behaves with us in a certain way, that's orchestrated by Krishna. So we should see Krishna everywhere and in everything, in every interaction, in every conversation, in every event that happens, in the weather, in the, you know, the music, and whatever, you know, the environment. That's all made by Krishna to either support our bhakti or remove some unwanted thing from our consciousness, or to give us an impetus to be more serious about spiritual life, or to, you know, inspire us to, you know, be compassionate, or, you know, be humble, or something like that. So Bhishmadev's remembering, he has seen Krishna's hand in everything throughout his life. He's understood very well because he's a pure devotee, he's a Mahajan. So he sees Krishna in everything. So everything, now that at the time of death, he's reflecting on how Krishna was there for me like this. Krishna was there for me like that. And Krishna also had this wonderful pastime, and Krishna had this wonderful quality. So we don't have to wait for the time of death to do that. You know, we can reflect on all the wonderful ways that Krishna is in our lives at any moment, you know, and each of us, even those who are very new in Krishna consciousness, have ways that Krishna has interacted with us. So, you know, I could say, like, let's say I'm at the time of death, I could reflect on my life in Krishna consciousness and be like, so he's saying, let my mind be fixed on this Krishna. Let my mind be fixed on this particular form of Krishna. So I could say, let my mind be fixed on that Krishna who spoke to me from the Bhagavad Gita and inspired me to seek out the association of devotees. Let my mind be fixed on that Krishna who, when I gave him a gift one time of these little peacock feather earrings, he didn't wear them for so long. And just when I thought maybe he didn't like them, I came back from Sankirtan after 2 weeks of being out, and the curtains opened and he was wearing them. And I nearly just like melted into the floor. Or let me meditate on that Krishna who, you know, through my spiritual masters, saved me from a very oppressive situation and put me in the perfect place to like grow in my Krishna consciousness. Or, you know, like, so all the ways, like everybody has these things that you can reflect on, like that Krishna who just was really there for me. Or a pastime that you really like let me meditate on Krishna, who's so merciful that even though Putana was a demon and came to kill him, just because she had a tiny little tinge of motherly affection towards him, he gave her, you know, a place, eternal service in Vaikuntha as his own nurse. So even though I still have so many demoniac qualities in my heart, let me meditate on that Krishna who's so merciful that despite all those demoniac qualities, because I have a tinge of devotion, he's going to take me back to Godhead, you know, like that. So if we had time, we could go around and get each one of you to say, let me meditate, let my mind be fixed on that Krishna who, you know, something, you know, some quality or something, some way that Krishna helps you through, either directly or through a person or a deity form. Let me meditate on that Krishna who, when I saw him in his deity form, he just seemed to be smiling so sweetly that all I wanted to do was stay looking at him forever, you know, like that. Or let me meditate on that Krishna who, you know, I had no idea what was going to happen, and I just went to the temple and his servants invited me to make a garland for him, and they gave me the flowers, and I felt so ecstatic doing that little service for him and so fortunate and connected, or something like that. So what time are we supposed to stop? 8:30? 8:45, okay. All right. What's that? Yeah. So we're so lucky, you know, that Srila Prabhupada gave us this personal form of Krishna. Because like it's saying here, it's so hard, it's difficult to meditate on the impersonal. And Prabhupada refers to this in chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita, where, let's find it. 12:5. He says, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So let's try this. Everybody just close your eyes and meditate on the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme. That all-pervading energy, that spiritual light that illuminates the universe. Okay. All right. So now keep your eyes closed. Now meditate on the beautiful transcendental form of Lord Krishna with his lotus feet, which are pinkish on the bottom and a dark blue on the top, with toenails that are like little full moons, each one of them, which are effulgent, just like giving off moonlight. And then his beautiful calves, which are decorated with flower paintings, and his powerful legs, which are like pillars, like when he bends his legs and punches comes in the face. And his narrow waist, which when he stands in his threefold bending form, his hips curve out and his shoulders curve the other way. And with his abdomen, which is soft, which Mother Yashoda tied with a rope when he was being naughty, when he was a small child. And his chest, which is very broad and strong, wide shoulders and strong arms. And with his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell. And his beautiful chin with a little jeweled ornament in the middle of it. And with his lips, which are reddish like the bimba fruit. And his raised nose, very aristocratic. And his lotus eyes, which extend all the way almost to his ears, which are like shaped like lotus petals, and which are warm and loving and compassionate. And they're so filled with love for all the conditioned souls that they're reddish, like as if he's about to cry due to deep compassion. which his face is framed with his beautiful curly locks of black hair, which are just bouncing around his face. And then on top of his head, he has a wonderful turban full of beautiful sparkling cloths and flower mukuts and a peacock feather, which is always moving back and forth, dancing because Krishna is always moving. And he has a flute tucked in his belt, which he's ready at any second to pull out and play a beautiful song to enchant all of our hearts. Let all of our minds be fixed on that Krishna. Beautiful Krishna, all attractive, supreme personality of Godhead. Every day of our lives, and especially at the time of death. And remember that not only his beautiful form, but all of his transcendental pastimes, how he engages so perfectly to bring out the deepest, most overpowering love of Mother Yashoda when he's a baby, and his friends when he grows up and goes to play in the cowherd with the cowherd boys in the pastures. And then as an adolescent with the gopis, how he dances with them and jokes with them and speaks in indirect ways to indicate indirect things in secrecy. And then later when he goes to Mathura and he reciprocates so lovingly with his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, who had been missing him all those years. They saw him only when he was a baby, and then he went away to Vrindavan. They didn't see him for so long. And then they saw him now as an adult, and but they still loved him just like a child. And then he very dutifully fulfilled his mission of killing so many demons in Mathura and while he was in Dwarka. And in the process, he married so many queens who were all his eternal consorts, who had come down to this world just to be with him and enjoy the particular flavor of his earthly pastimes. And as we were saying, how he reciprocated with each one of them perfectly. And then how he was so friendly with all of those associates, like Uddhava and Akrura and the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, who was such a close friend. And he attended this Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhisthira. And Yudhisthira was so overwhelmed by that because Krishna was a friend, but he also knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he really wanted Krishna to come to his sacrifice. And there was a whole drama about it because at the same time as Yudhisthira requested Krishna to come to the sacrifice, a messenger came from some kings who were imprisoned by Jarasandha that you please come and release us. So he didn't know what to do first. And so Krishna, because he's so renounced, even though he's most intelligent, most strong, most famous, most beautiful, most knowledgeable, he deferred to Uddhava. He said, Uddhava, you decide what's the best thing to do in this situation, and we'll abide by your conclusion. So then Uddhava, he very diplomatically thought, well, Maharaj Yudhisthira can't do the sacrifice until all the other kings have surrendered to him, just like Prabhupada mentions in the purport here. So Jarasandha is a king and he's inimical. So the Rajasuya Yaga can't go on until Jarasandha is dead. So how about this? First, go to Hastinapur, tell Yudhisthira that go ahead and announce your intention to do the Rajasuya sacrifice. And then as a part of that, as a part of the sacrifice, then you'll need to go out and make all the other kings either fight and die or submit. So the first person you'd go to is Jarasandha. So then they went to Jarasandha, and Uddhava said, but Jarasandha is very powerful. And there was a thing that somehow Krishna couldn't kill Jarasandha. I can't remember exactly what it was. It had to be somebody else. So, but Jarasandha's armies were very powerful. So he said that you go with Bhima and Arjuna, but neither of them is going to be able to defeat Jarasanda's army. So you have to get Jarasandha alone. So dress up as Brahmins, disguise yourself as Brahmins, because Jarasandha, he's a demon, but he has one good quality, he's very charitable, and he'll never refuse charity to a Brahmana. So you go there dressed as Brahmanas, and then tell them, ask him for charity. And then when he says, okay, what would you like? Then you ask for a fight. So that's exactly what they did. And then Jarasandha is like, okay, you got it. And then they take off their Brahmin clothes and they show their muscles. And then, and then so Jarasandha says, I won't fight with Arjuna. He's too much of a wimp. I'll fight with Bhima. Bhima's my equal. So then they had the fight, and Jarasandha, Bhima, they were fighting for days. And they couldn't, like yesterday we were having some wrestling matches. The boys are wrestling, and sometimes there's an equal match, so it's going on and on, right? And then it's like neither can defeat the other, and they're just kind of getting tired, because it's like, a lot of course, Jarasandha and Bhima were so they were fighting for days and days, and they were starting to get tired. And then Bhima finally, he was just like, I don't know what to do, Krishna. I don't think I can defeat him. So then Krishna said, don't worry, I'll give you an indication tomorrow how you can defeat him. So then the next day, they're fighting, and then Krishna takes a twig that's like a Y-shaped twig, and he splits it like that. Because Jarasandha, he was born in a very peculiar way. He was born in two halves, like he was lengthwise, split lengthwise in two halves. And when he was born, his mother was like, what is this? A baby in two. So basically she took it as a miscarriage. So she just kind of threw the two halves into the woods. And then this witch who lived in the woods, she found these two halves, and she's like, oh, what a shame, such a beautiful baby, only that he's in two halves. So she did a spell, and she kind of put him together again, and he came to life. And that's so he had this seam, he had this seam down the middle. So that was a weakness along the line of his body. So when Krishna did this split thing with the twig, he was indicating to Bhima, get his legs and rip him apart like that. So that's what he did. And he grabbed one leg and he put his foot on the ground, the other leg, and he ripped him in half. And that was the end of Jarasandha. And then after that, they went back, and then they did the Rajasuya Yajna. So that's Bhishma Dev's remembering all these things at the time of death, how Krishna is so wonderful, how he came and how he made this promise and how he did this amazing feat, and like in such a outrageous way, like who would have thought, I mean, only Krishna, and then came back, and then he was honored as the Supreme Personality, even though some people there didn't see him. Actually, Maharaj Yudhisthira's Rajasuya sacrifice, it wasn't for the sake of doing the sacrifice. It was a preaching program to invite, because at these yagas, they would invite everybody from all over the universe. The demigods would come, the sages would come, everybody would be there. All the important people in the universe would be there. And Yudhisthira wanted everyone to come and see that out of everybody present, the foremost person, the best person in the whole assembly is Krishna. And so he should be worshipped, and everybody has to accept that out of everyone sitting here, this is the best personality. He is the, supreme. And so, and everybody saw that. And after everybody had to accept, and Shishupal was there and he didn't like it and he objected. I object, this Krishna, he lies, he cheats, Just see how he went as a cheater there dressed as a Brahmin. He's not a Brahmin. And so, he was upset with that, and Krishna was so tolerant. Shishupal even. I'm going to go on for hours. I have to stop. We have to stop. I get literally going for hours. What? Please go. Shishupal, when Shishupal was born, there was somebody told his mother that there was a voice in the sky. Like with Kamsa, the 8th child will kill you. So there was a voice in the sky that said that this child will be killed by Krishna. So Shishupal's mother went to Krishna and said, please, I have a request to you. I beg you, please give me one benediction. And she worshipped him and all that. And Krishna said, sure, whatever. And and I mean, whatever you like, not like whatever, but whatever you like, I'll give you a benediction. And she said, please don't kill my son. So he said, I can't promise you that, but what I can say is that I will tolerate 100 insults from him. So yeah, so from that point on, from the time that Shishupal could talk, he was insulting Krishna. And Krishna, he just hated Krishna. He was just born infused with envy of Krishna. And Krishna was counting. He was like 1, 2, 3, 4. So then finally, like it got up to the 90 something. And then at the Rajasuya sacrifice, he was just like hurling insults at Krishna, and Krishna was just like 94, 95, 96. And then, so the insults are flying. Krishna's just standing there. He's just like smiling. And Arjuna and Bhima, they're like rushing towards Shishupal. They want to beat him up, like, who are you? Krishna this way. Like, don't talk to about my friend like that. Anyway, so then Krishna, he held them back. He caught them and he's like, no, you just settle down. It's going to be okay. I'm going to handle this. And then so he keeps going with the insults, 96, 97, 98, 99. And just when the 100th one was coming, Krishna got his Sudarshan chakra and threw it. And he did it in such a way. So the Sudarshan chakra is like a disc. It's like a frisbee with like supersonic, like spiritually powered razor blades on the edge or something. It's a spiritual weapon. That's what it's shaped like. Double-bladed frisbee. So he threw that, and he did it in such a way that it chopped off Shishupal's head. And as it did so, it like singed, because it's not just sharp, it's hot. So it singed all of his arteries and veins, so that and it sealed them, so that not a drop of blood fell from like his neck on either of the cut sides, and his head flew out of the sacrificial arena. So the reason he didn't want Arjuna and Bhima to fight was because there was going to be bloodshed, and then it was going to spoil everything, because it would because blood is considered contaminated. It would contaminate the sacrificial arena, and the sacrifice wouldn't be able to go on. So, and that's why Shishupal chose that moment to offend Krishna, because he knew it was going to happen, and he wanted the whole thing to be spoiled. His intention was to spoil the Maharaja's Rajasuya, and Krishna knew. So he's like, I'm going to do this in a way that nothing is spoiled, this demon dies, and that everything goes on like totally immaculately. So Krishna's he just knows how to handle every situation. So like that, if we just surrender to Krishna and accept Krishna as our Lord and Master, then he's going to arrange everything perfectly, so that even though it looks like the worst possible situation, he's going to solve it in such a way that not a drop of blood is shed. That everything is just clean and perfect and pure and wonderful. So, Jai, I'll stop here. I guess we could take a couple of questions. So, Max, you have to go. Okay, one question, Max.
So, how should we process when you're kind of receiving Krishna's mercy? You mentioned earlier when every interaction you can see it's like Krishna, big Krishna. So how do we kind of receive that, especially when it's not full cut happiness? Because we can be conditioned like, oh, this should be like discreet, my interaction, or happy. But sometimes, interactions might be like sad.
Yeah.
So how do we receive that? Also,
yeah, we just have to accept, like there's one purport in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that the way a devotee feels is that if something good happens to me, then it's just Krishna's exceptional mercy. I don't deserve it. And if something bad happens, then it's just a token reaction for all the, sins I've committed through multiple lifetimes. And it's by Krishna's mercy, he's, he's like reduced it to such a small amount, but he's giving me some little thing just for my purification, just to, free me from any last vestiges of material attachment to this world, and to help me to just give it up and go to him. Either way, it's all good. So I'll just end with this verse here from the Bhagavatam. This is 2:16. It says, the highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Prabhupada priya, Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna to all the devotees there on Zoom. I'm sorry we had to end the class without getting into much discussion afterwards. Mother Prabhupada Priya and the devotees, they have to leave in just a few minutes to go to their next destination.
The whole family here or just Mataji?
There's 27 devotees.
No. The Mataji who gave lecture, she's from Mayapur. She's with whole family or just by herself?
I don't know. Here she is.
I'm here by
Mataji, Hare
myself.
Krishna.
I'm a Vanaprastha now. I'm a traveling preacher now.
Oh, okay. I thought that your two daughters and Prabhuji, you all are there.
No, they're still in India. They're in Vrindavan. The daughters, they might be coming, or I go to visit them, or they might be coming to visit me. But now
I know them. I know you all, Mataji. I'm from Mayapur.
Jai.
So,
It's always nice to be reminded of Mayapur.
Yep. So are you staying here a few days, Mataji, or you are leaving? You are going somewhere else?
Oh, we're literally leaving in like half an hour.
Where are you going?
We just came. Yeah, we're kind of on a transcendental road trip. And we're
Okay.
working our way towards New Vrindavan for a festival
Oh.
of inspiration.
We might be there in New Vrindavan. I don't know, maybe.
We
Or
can?
if you are going this way, if this is the route, 95 north side, then you can visit to us just for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll be very happy.
We're in a big hurry. We're even like not even having time to take prashadam here.
How long you are going to be in New Vrindavan, Mataji?
We'll be there. We're getting there tonight and we're leaving Sunday. So we'll be there all weekend. I'll be giving a talk there too, if you're interested. I'll be giving a talk about parenting, raising children in Krishna consciousness.
That will be wonderful. I remember your first daughter. She reminds me always like Radharani. She's so humble, always in a sari, all this thing.
Yeah, my daughter's a little angel, 2 angels.
Yeah, they are.
Krishna blessed me with 2 angels from the spiritual world.
Yeah, no doubt. So I have 2 days off. Normally I work on, but I might see you all in New Vrindavan. You want to
Okay.
say something? Thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your class. Hare Krishna.
I'm sorry that the time was short and I got carried away with myself there. So I'm really sorry I didn't get a chance to like invite you all to make comments and questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. It was perfect. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Gotta run. Haribol. Have a great day.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Just wanted to remind you that tonight we have our Srila Prabhupada Leela night starting at 7 o'clock. And then before that at 6:40, we have our shloka recitation class. So we hope to see you later on tonight on Zoom. And everybody have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. I tell you, it was really, really a special visit with these devotees, such enthusiasm. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see them, at least some of them again. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare